My title of my lesson today is Celebrating Life as It Is. So we've just spent the past week looking at the idea that not all relationships end up all nice and tidy. And when we can't accept that reality and we get stuck in an internal unresolved space waiting for someone else to give us permission to heal and move on with living, that stuck place can just feel awful. It can feel awful. And I want to take that lesson a little bit further today. So the truth is that life isn't supposed to be easy. Breathe that in. Life isn't supposed to be easy, and I'm not quite sure where we get the idea that it is supposed to be easy, except that there are so many times in our life where it feels easy. You know, during those periods of time where existing in structures that we built, you know, like jobs and families and homes and communities and things like that. And we're humming along and things feel good and they feel easy. And then something hard comes along and we kind of lose our footing. And the question is there a way to celebrate life, all of life, not just the chapters that feel easy? Let's talk about that. So when hard things come into our lives, they bring with them opportunities for us to learn and grow. And when we learn and grow, we can eventually learn how to celebrate that lesson and embody the wisdom that that lesson brought to us. And unfortunately, hold on, something happened to my printing. Unfortunately, we spend so much time resisting and kind of pouting about the arrival of the hard thing that we can get stuck in that place for too long. So can anyone relate to the experience of kind of resisting and pouting? Okay. I've called it a temper tantrum before. Like, have a little temper tantrum. Well, so much of the spiritual journey is about learning to relax and trust the flow of life. And as we develop the mindset that God is at the center of everything, every situation, every moment, we can begin to train ourselves to see the balance in all things, the wisdom and intelligence of all things unfolding, the grace that is always available to us, the helpers that show up in the hard times, the love that must be present because everything is spiritual. And in that mindset of knowing spiritual truth, we can practice relaxing and trusting our faith. All right? So when we relax and stop fighting or denying the situation that is unfolding, we can begin to accept the direction that our path is taking and start to release the fear that we feel about this kind of new trajectory that's going on. And fear is what blocks the path forward, and that blocked path is what leads to the wisdom and the greater learning. But fear is real, right? And it's not easy to just transcend, is it? So what I've learned is that fear related to hard things is about not wanting change to occur. So hard things that bring changes we simply do not want, and quite frankly, we kind of pretend just isn't happening. So here's the thing. What I know is that sitting right here in this room today and listening to this lesson from wherever, most people are in the middle of some change unfolding, and most hard changes are not wanted. So maybe you're experiencing a financial setback, and we all know what that feels like. Financial setbacks are hard things that bring changes we do not want, and it's hard to see a path forward when fear blocks your ability to think and ask for clarity and figure things out and grow financial wisdom. Or maybe your hard thing is about a relationship that needs to occur or is occurring unexpectedly for you. And that kind of life twist, it can be so hard emotionally to navigate with faith. And fear can just paralyze you from moving forward into a new chapter. And then there can be this sudden health thing or injury from an accident or something that changes your body. It can be debilitating. It changes your daily life in a big way. And the fear of the future can settle into place. And if we can't step through that fear, we can get really, really stuck. So don't all of those big challenges sound like things that are like impossible to celebrate? It's impossible to celebrate those things, Laine. You're asking us to celebrate life as it is, without exception? Yeah, I am, and here's why. In all of those situations that I just enumerated and outlined, buried inside each of them, big changes, there are hidden blessings for us to find them. That's why we celebrate life as it is. The spiritual goal is to celebrate life as it is. But I want to pause and define the word celebrate. This is what the definition of celebrate is. It means to honor, praise, or show that an event or occasion is important. All of the big, hard things I just mentioned are experiences we can honor, praise, and give import to. Maybe not in the midst of it, but eventually. But there is one life shift that carries the most fear of all, and that is death. Okay? So the loss of a magic suit, I call this the magic suit. The loss of a magic suit, either our own or someone we love dearly. So in all my years of ministry, this is the one fear that so many people just cling to with a death grip. Pun intended, pun intended. And it is the fear that prevents us from living our best life. The question becomes, can we even celebrate life when it most certainly contains the very real experience of death? So yes, I want to talk about death today. And it's our subject for the week ahead in our fantastic summer of sunrises and sunsets. Death, really? That's what we're going to talk about? Yes. First, let me start with some personal heart experience that set me on this refreshed path of learning on this subject. So many of you were present in the room almost 3 years ago when I gave a lesson, and then I got on a plane to fly to Kansas City to officiate my Aunt Bev's celebration of life. And I was surrounded by my extended family and pretty much the entire community of Clinton, Missouri. And I witnessed the truth that we all have individual relationships with the topic of death. And I realized that my spiritual faith helped me tremendously in that moment through that loss. And for the past 3 years, I have been wanting to address this topic in this community. Then, the passing of Barley, our practitioner and our former board president earlier this year, and then the transition of our beloved front row, Kathy Gepner, brought the topic of celebrating all of life, including death, to the front and center of my consciousness earlier this year. I knew it had to be something we explored this summer. And my hope is that I can give you some perspectives on this topic that can perhaps loosen some of that fear you may be carrying around this topic that hovers on the edges of our lives every single day. So let me acknowledge this, that this is a very big subject, and that I will barely be able to scratch the surface in this lesson today, but I at least want to start or continue the conversation. Some of you as individuals, we've had some of this conversation, but I want to continue it. And the first thing I want you to consider is that your soul existed before this magic suit, and it will continue after this magic suit. And that's a spiritual truth that you can accept for yourself, but you can also accept it for the other magic suits that are occupied by people that you love on your life stage. And we're primarily souls and secondarily bodies and hearts and minds and personalities, primarily souls. And when you look at it that way, you might be able to see that when we die, our soul is shifting from its current way of expressing and existing inside this body, shifting into a new expression. And when we experience the death of someone in our lives, our beliefs about this shifting are revealed. And these losses expose our current consciousness about this shift and our fears associated with it. So if we have unreleased fears about death, they're exposed to us over and over and over in our lives when we experience the magic suits around us shifting into new expressions. Take a deep breath. You're all holding your breath, I can tell. Actually, there are several things that are revealed when we go through a death of a friend or a family member or a loved one, and sometimes even a public figure will touch and reveal some of these things that we learn. Not only do these experiences reveal our current level of spiritual consciousness and human fears, but they also reveal our level of attachment to physical forms. What are physical forms? Bodies, possessions, things like that. And as we mourn the loss of the magic suit, we also get to see how much we believe that the physical possessions of that person represent that person, and how their presence brought us entitlements or privileges or other things that are now threatened or shifting to change. The fear of death of others is often a fear of the destabilization of the structures that that person held in place in our experiences, right? So another fear that's wrapped up in the fear of death is the fear that we have, and we talked about this in Sacred Cup this morning, the fear that we have about experiencing our deepest emotional selves. Loss can bring the experience of grief and mourning and sorrow, and while these are necessary emotions to move through, spirituality can help you keep moving through them and not get so stuck in them. So let me share another thought to consider. What I find so interesting is that through the death of those we love, we also get to see how much of our relationship with them is about their physical existence and how much of the connection really is a spiritual one, a non-tangible one. So their passing reveals our beliefs, and no matter what our beliefs are, we can work within our personal belief system to develop stronger spiritual connections with those we love. When we're centered in a spiritual connection with people, we can grieve the physical loss without losing the comfort in the spiritual relationship that was not lost. See what I'm saying? So I invite you to begin to develop true soul connections within our relationships, because when we do that, our relationships transcend death better and better as we go. But how do I do that, Laine? So I want you to look around your life and your mind at your relationships right now and see who your strongest spiritual connections are. Who do you feel connected to even when they aren't in physical proximity to you? Continue to strengthen those loving relationships while you're both still in your magic suits. That means you talk about meaningful subjects and journey through challenges together and learn together and grow together and watch your bond begin to transcend the need to be in the room together. The most important part is, after someone has left their magic suit, figure out how to connect with their soul based on your belief system. And I don't know what you believe about what happens after death, but whatever you believe, use that belief to connect. And here's what I mean. If you believe that people become your guardian angels, talk to them as if they are your guardian angels. If you believe your prayers connect you with that person, pray for them and acknowledge your love for them through your prayers. If you believe that they're in heaven, then connect with their heavenly essence in whatever way you feel or believe is possible. Pass a message through the pearly gates or whatever it is you believe is possible. Work with that belief. If you believe they're in the ground, visit their grave, sit by it and talk to them about what's going on in your life. If you believe that they're wherever you're, spread their ashes, go there. If you believe they're waiting on the other side, figure out how to wave to the other side and let them know, I'll see you sometime soon. You know, when I was writing this, I realized that because so many of us give up our early belief systems and religion and things like that, when you come to explore spirituality, you may not have replaced those earlier beliefs about death and what happens next with a current set of beliefs. So not knowing what you believe about such a big subject can be very frightening and disorienting. And when I ask people, what do you believe happens after death? The answer almost always is, I don't know. And I reply, I know you don't know. Nobody knows. But what do you believe? What do you believe? It's important to know what you believe about death because it informs so much about living. You know, maturing your relationship with death is important to spiritual freedom. And if you're one of those people who can't talk about it, or it's a taboo subject, I invite you this morning to think about the idea that it is actually the same experience as birth, just in the opposite direction. And here's what I mean by that. Most people don't have any problem talking about an upcoming birth. You know, an approaching birth. A woman who is pregnant is always asked, when are you having your baby, right? And we know that she gives us the answer, that we've really asked an unanswerable question, but we aren't afraid to ask. So why is it so difficult to talk about death? Dying is as important a day as your day of birth, and also as unimportant as any given Tuesday. Let me say that again. Dying is as important a day as your day of birth, but also as unimportant as any given Tuesday. I'm not suggesting celebrating the physical experience of dying. None of us really know what that experience is, but I find near-death accounts of it to be very, very reassuring. I find the medical workers and hospice workers describe it in a very reassuring way too. You know, when you think about it, we don't actually celebrate the actual messy, difficult experience of the birth. We celebrate the soul that begins its human plane journey that day. And each year, what do? We celebrate the physical form that is aging along with them, and each year we sing songs and we eat treats and we give presents and we talk about what they have learned over the past year. And in death, we don't celebrate the actual death of the body. We just accept the messiness of it as we accept the mess of birth. It's the physical part. So yes, we can celebrate the ending of the human challenges and the beginning of a new expression according to our belief systems. And just like after a birth, after a death, we are often given the opportunity to come together and sing songs and eat treats and talk about what the person learned in their lifetime, looking at death as being on the same continuum as birth, the same experience of consciousness shifting from one expression to another can be very, very helpful in setting you free spiritually. So as I said, maturing your belief systems and your personal relationship with death is so important. If your answer is, I don't know, please don't stop there. Get curious. Just as any other spiritual growth, wisdom teachers around us offer so many opportunities for us to learn and grow on this topic, and I invite you to read their books on the topic. And there are several that I can recommend. Kathy Gapner, she shared her greatest book on this subject called The Journey of Souls. And for her, that was a profoundly impactful book. Highly recommend it. She insisted I read it, so I'll insist y'all read it. And the works of Ainsley MacLeod launched me into my current understanding and belief system around this topic too, several years ago. I also invite you to watch movies about death and let them open your mind to new ways of considering it. So much art has been created about this topic, and we can learn from them. Find poems about death. Listen to music or podcasts on the subject. And another way to break through on the topic is to talk to someone who can talk about it, who isn't afraid of it and celebrates it. There are many of us. This week, I want to share an example of the most impactful death experience I have ever encountered in my seeking. I've read about it, I've watched, I've listened to everything I can find about it, and I've meditated and I've tried to uncover the wisdom in it for me and share it with all of you. And that is the death of Andrea Gibson last July. So Andrea Gibson's pronouns are they and them. So I apologize in advance if I mispronoun them in this lesson or as I talk about them over the week ahead or any time in the future. Andrea was the poet laureate for the state of Colorado prior to their death at age 49 last summer. They were famous in poetry and literary circles for their amazing works of written and spoken poetry art. They were already a public figure when they found out they had ovarian cancer, and Andrea was surrounded by famous and impactful friends, including their wife, Megan Falley. So Megan and Andrea decided to create a film documentary about their journey through terminal cancer treatment, and it was released last year under the title Come See Me in the Good Light. How many of you have seen Come See Me in the Good Light? There's several in the room. In this documentary, this couple tells their story about cancer, mortality, and their journey around the fear of all of it, and how they set themselves free to love life in every way. The title itself is so interesting to me, Come See Me in the Good Light. Andrea had this uncanny ability to see the good in all things, to celebrate life as it is, no matter how hard. Their poetry reveals that ability throughout all the volumes of work I have found. Andrea could see the light even in the hardest and darkest experiences like bullying and mental illness and suicidal ideation and gender dysmorphia, to just name a few. And with this documentary, they found light in the topics of mortality and terminal illness and death, grief and loss of physical identity. The title itself, Come See Me in the Good Life, it's almost an invitation to bring our love and light to everything and see it as good. If we could do that in all our relationships, maybe death wouldn't be as scary. If we could see everyone and everything in the good light, we would be healed. The invitation is, bring your love to my situation and help me see it in the good light. Help me look at my past and see it in the good light. How can I help you see you and your life in the good light? The words, the good light, were displayed above their bed in their home. Come see me as my best self. Isn't that a lovely idea? When Andrea was dying at age 49, they were surrounded by all the loves of their life, their friends, their family, their ex-lovers and partners. They were all there. There was no need to worry about unresolved relationships because they had created a life where love reigned supreme and the table of love was open to all. And I don't know about you, but there's a lesson there for me. So I invite you to watch this film and witness their journey in exploring all the different perspectives about letting go of the fear of dying. Come See Me in the Good Light. It's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. I don't know where all you can see it. It's worth finding. So let's let the certainty of death be the invitation to see everyone and everything in the good light and celebrate it. Make sure your relationships are where you want them to be, and let Brené's wisdom from last week free you from those unresolved ones that are not to be healed in this lifetime externally, yet allowing them to heal within your own heart and mind. See them in the good light. And here's the thing. When you're living in the good light and seeing everyone and everything else in the good light, there's no reason to fear death. It's just more good light. So my prayer is that we are growing as a community that celebrates life as it is. In the fall, I'm going to offer a workshop to help everyone on this subject of celebrating their own life. Death is not a topic I want us to be afraid of talking about here. So dive into this topic with me this week and know that I won't be done with this topic until we can all see life in the good light as we grieve and then celebrate it individually and together. It is the greatest freedom possible. Will you pray with me? Here is what I know. What I know is that everyone listening to this lesson will be touched by this subject, will know higher wisdom as they walk through it the next time. I know good light for each and every person hearing this lesson this morning. I know that love is available in every single heart, and it descends in more and more power in every moment. I release this lesson, I release this topic, and let it go into the good light. And so it is.